Hello and welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Thelma Okoro. At least 4 people have been killed over an alleged blasphemy by a Christian trader against Prophet Muhammad in Niger State, north-central Nigeria. The army on Tuesday said a Muslim mob killed 1 person on Sunday and 3 others on Monday in the town of Pandogari in Niger State following blasphemous remarks by a Christian against the Prophet. The brawl began after a 24-year-old trader identified as Methodist Emmanuel posted comments deemed blasphemous on his Facebook page. This angered some people who found the man and killed him. It eventually escalated to religious violence. Njideka Agu, a spokesperson for the Nigerian army in Mina, said security officials have now restored peace in the area. Niger's President Muhammadu Buhari will on Thursday visit the Niger Delta region. This will be the first time the Nigerian leader will make the trip to the region since taking office a year ago. Over the past few weeks, the oil-rich region has been rocked by a series of attacks on oil and gas pipelines. A militant group called Niger Delta Avengers has claimed responsibility for the attacks. During his visit to the region, President Buhari will stop at Ogoniland to launch a much-delayed program to clean up areas heavily polluted by oil spills. The president's visit was announced just as the group issued a warning to oil firms in the southern region, saying their facilities and personnel will bear the brunt of their fury. Niger's crude oil output has fallen to a 22-year low following the attacks. A group known as Save Niger Delta has condemned the Nigerian military for invading some communities in the region in search of militants. In a statement issued, the group described as unprovoked the military invasion on Baramatu Ijo communities in Warri Southwest local government area of Delta State. It said the invasion is callous, inhuman, and also insensitive. The Nigerian military has stepped up operations in the Niger Delta region following the attacks on several pipelines by suspected militants. Local officials and Western allies such as Britain have told President Buhari that moving in troops to the Niger Delta region would not be enough to stop the attacks. The movement for the actualization of the sovereign state of Biafra, MASOB, has demanded the release of the corpses of pro-Biafran members killed during Monday's clash with security operatives. The incident occurred during celebrations that marked the 50th anniversary of the defunct Biafra Republic in southeast Nigeria. In a statement issued on Tuesday, MASOB said about 30 pro-Biafran activists were killed in Onitsha, while 5 others lost their lives in Asaba in clashes with security agencies. However, security agencies have dismissed the death toll. The spokesperson of the group, Uchenna Madu, in the statement also demanded the unconditional release of all pro-Biafran agitators. Following the incident, police in Anambra, Imo and Delta states say dozens of suspects have been arrested. The groups involved in the clash are the Movement for the Actualization of the Sovereign State of Biafra and the indigenous people of Biafra. Late Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu had declared the Republic of Biafra on May 30th, 1966. The secessionist state in eastern Nigeria existed till January 1970. The Inspector General of the Police Force, Solomon Arase, on Tuesday condemned the killing of police officers by members of the Biafra group in southeast Nigeria. A statement issued by police spokesperson Olabisi Kolawole said the targeted attacks on police personnel carrying out their duties portrays the Biafran activists as testing the common will of the nation. Arase also directed the Assistant Inspector Generals of Police and the Commissioners of Police in the affected areas to disarm members of the group operating firearms immediately. Workers in Ondo State say they have decided to embark on an indefinite strike action following the inability of the state government to pay their salaries. The industrial action is expected to commence on Wednesday, June 1st. The civil servants say the state government hasn't paid their salaries for 5 months now. The decision followed an emergency meeting of the labor unions in the state. Newly appointed Comptroller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service, Mohammed Babandede, has ordered officers at various airports to arrest all ex-political office holders still in possession of their diplomatic passports. Addressing newsmen in Abuja, Babandede noted that the deadline for the return of these passports had long expired and must now be retrieved by force. The immigration boss also noted that, amongst other things, his goal is to make the Nigerian Immigration Service a model. He said the days of corruption and delay in passport collection are since over. Niger's President Muhammadu Buhari has urged the National Assembly to consider and pass the legal documents of the Federal Capital Territory and the Niger Delta Development Commission before June 13th. He said the passage of the budgets would enable them to execute their statutory mandate. The president made the appeal at the Democracy Day dinner in honor of the federal lawmakers held at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. Major Hamza Al-Mustafa, who was a former chief security officer to late General Sani Abacha, has denied the late head of state stole money from Nigeria. He was speaking to journalists in Lagos State, Southwest Nigeria on some number of issues relating to his 15 years in detention. He said the major amount of money kept in foreign accounts by the late leader was hidden due to an impending sanction on the country at that time. He said the decision to stash the money in foreign banks was taken by the late General Abacha and some high-ranking officials who are still influential in Nigeria today. Earlier this year, the Swiss government confirmed it had so far returned $723 million, which is about 142.43 billion naira, seized from the family of Sani Abacha to the Nigerian government over the last 10 years.
I was highly embarrassed in 1999 when we were taken to, we transferred from Ikoyi prison around November or December. That was when I heard the word Abacha loot. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed. I was very embarrassed. And I reacted. Why? Where was the money from? What was it for? Who kept the money? How much was the money? And when was this money stashed out? How was it taken out? And remember, Abacha was not always living Nigerian. He traveled at the beginning. Yes, he traveled out to India, to Saudi Arabia, to Pakistan. He went to so many countries at the beginning in 1994. But when he came back, most of his journeys were within African countries. South Africa and many West African states, to Central Africa at one time, and North Africa. These were most of the places he visited. In most cases, he was being represented. In the tenureship of General Abacha, for the 4 years, 7 months, he found himself in power. Abacha has had numerous attacks, away from the few that was mentioned. There were collaborations between some notable Nigerians and some international powers to remove him out of office. General Abacha is dead. But those he stepped upon decided to invest by smearing his name. In Nigeria, over the years, decades, there are some people who have grown bigger than the laws of Nigeria, bigger than security agencies of Nigeria, bigger than governments in Nigeria. But during Abacha's tenure, in the course of trying to remove him out of office violently, Abacha had to defend himself, and he allowed the law to take its course. So notable Nigerians were arrested. They were tried. They never take it in good light. They have still not forgiven General Abacha. And I have my reasons for saying not yet. They have not yet forgiven Abacha, even at death. Now, sanctions also were threatened upon Nigeria. And the survivability of the government then, to my knowledge, was a key thing. There was also a decision at one point in time where some stakeholders of Nigeria were invited to Abuja at Brigade of Guards officers' mess, at a mess called Camp Basim officers' mess in Abuja. Traditional rulers, key politicians, key businessmen from the north to the south who sat down to converse. At that time, Chief Tommy Kim was foreign minister. And when sanction was threatened on Nigeria, at the request of some notable Nigerians, some modalities were taken to allow some money go to some accounts abroad, so that when sanction comes, that money will be able to keep Nigeria afloat. At that time, oil was $7, $8. No loan was taken to run Nigeria. Policies were taken, including PTF, so that Nigeria could grow. At one time, from prison, I wrote a note to late General Abacha's family, and I said, in the name of God, don't get cowed down from the pressure and the segregation and the abuses you receive every day. Come to the fore and tell the whole world whatever is in the contents of the money they are talking about as loots. The dates of lodgement of that money will show whether monies were kept in his name before he became head of state, and monies that were kept in his name after he became head of state. That is step one, to do yourself justice. I suggested. Number two is also to give history as to what that money was kept and meant for. There are stakeholders you can go for. I was in detention at that time, but I can remember faces of many, many big men who attended that Abuja Kambasi meeting where this decision was taken. And all these people are there. But then, unfortunately, till this moment, I don't think there was any interview that was presented to these personalities, and there are many.
Nigeria's Vice President Machiraju is in Papua New Guinea for the 8th Summit of Heads of State of African, Caribbean and Pacific Groups of States. The Vice President is representing President Muhammadu Buhari at the two-day event. He will join leaders from 78 other countries to address the summit in Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. Discussions at the summit will focus on recent key international developments such as Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as issues of migration, climate change, and the fight against terrorism. The federal government has set up a presidential committee to recover loans granted commercial banks and corporate organizations by the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON. The committee, headed by the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, has members drawn from various ministries, departments, and agencies. Among the members of the team are the Minister of State for Aviation, Hadi Sarika, Inspector General of the Police Force, Solomon Arase, Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ibrahim Magu, Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris, Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Ibe Kachiko. Others include Director General of the Debt Management Office, Abraham Nwankwo, and the Managing Director of AMCON, Ahmed Kuru. At the inauguration of the committee, the AGF said the decision by AMCON to purchase the toxic loans was to stabilize the banking sector and the Nigerian economy. However, the debtors who cut across the aviation, banking, and oil and gas sectors have since failed to repay the loans. We'll take a short break now. When we'll come back, we'll look at business and sports stories. Don't go away.
That was a very good business.
Yeah.
The furniture you brought was very perfect.
That's how we roll.
Because then let me do you receipts.
Yeah. How much was it again?
1 million naira.
Okay, write 2.5.
Mbano. The deal was for 1 million naira now.
Okay, write 3 million. I'll give you 500.
Oh no, I don't do business like that now. Yeah.
In that case, give me back my check. Let me go and look for someone that understand business.
Take.
Your loss. Rubbish.
It is only for incorruptible customers. What are you talking?
Now get out.
What kind of this?
You will just die.
No,
You will die.
That is the door. Now get out from here.
Rubbish.
Look, my people, make we only add money for original invoice price. That's not corruption. Say no, not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back. You're watching TV360 News Now. OPEC is likely to choose Niger's Mohamed Bakindo as the next Secretary General of the producer group. Reuters on Tuesday reported that Bakindo, who is a former head of NNPC, may be OPEC's next leader. In March this year, Nigeria nominated Bakindo for the top post. OPEC has been looking for a replacement for Libya's Abdullah al-Badri, who was elected acting Secretary General in December until the end of July after serving full terms. Moving on to oil prices now. Brent crude prices fell on Tuesday on rising output from the Middle East and ahead of an OPEC meeting on Thursday. Brent crude oil futures were down 26 cents at $49.50 per barrel, while U.S. crude futures traded at $49.42 per barrel. OPEC's 13 members will meet in Vienna to set the group's policy, which is expected to focus more on market share than on influencing prices. At least 23 people have been killed by airstrikes on the rebel-held city of Idlib in northwestern Syria, activists have confirmed. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights and said Russian aircrafts targeted various positions overnight. Turkey also blamed Russia and put a death toll at more than 60. Russia has since denied any involvement in the incident. Russia is a key ally of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and has carried out an air campaign that it says targets terrorists. Chad's ex-ruler Hissène Habré has been convicted of crimes against humanity and sentenced to life in prison at a landmark trial in Senegal. The judge convicted him of rape, sexual slavery and ordering killings during his rule in office from 1982 to 1990. This will be the first time an African Union-backed court will try a former ruler for human rights abuses. Throughout the trial, Habré refused to recognize the court's legitimacy, frequently disrupting proceedings. The ex-president denied accusations that he ordered the killing of about 40,000 people during his rule from 1982 to 1990. Niger's under-17 women's team, the Flamingos, have been drawn in a rather tough group against Brazil, England and Korea in Group C. The 2016 under-17 Women's World Cup is built to hold in Jordan. The draw took place at the Al Hussein Cultural Center in downtown Amman and was overseen by His Highness Prince Ali bin Hussein, who is the president of the Jordanian Football Association. The Flamingos will be appearing in their fourth under-17 Women's World Cup after making their debut in the maiden edition in New Zealand 2008. The trial of Argentina and Barcelona footballer Lionel Messi on tax fraud charges has begun in Spain. Messi and his father Jorge are accused of defrauding Spain of more than £4 million between 2007 and 2009. The authorities allege that the two used tax havens in Belize and Uruguay to conceal earnings from image rights. The Spanish tax agency is demanding heavy fines and prison sentences. The duo have since denied any wrongdoing. The trial is expected to last for 3 days, with Messi appearing in court on Thursday. Well, that's all we have on News Now. We thank you very much for watching. I am Thelma Okoro.